your wedding day. Such memories. Your smiling face, the love in her eyes, promising of a lifelong journey of understanding and support. So what the fuck happened? You out the house, she got the car, and you're recovering on your homeboy's couch, or even worse, in your parents' basement. Life after marriage is not something most men are prepared for. Many don't even talk about the issues that affected what was supposed to be one of the best things that ever happened. What now? How does your life start over? It's time to talk about it. The Lame Show starts now.
All right, welcome to The Lame Show, Life After Marriage Ends. We're your hosts, Daniil, Drew, Jamal, Kier, myself, Goran.
Yo.
We're chopping it up today. The fellas, all of us have kids, and, I think all of us have done a pretty good job of co-parenting. But we're really going to, dig in and ask an expert today to really help us and provide, some guidance and some expertise around co-parenting. So we have a special guest.
Yes, sir.
Joining us today. So real quick, let me just bring in this special guest. Her name is Suzy Miller. Suzy is a divorce strategist, public speaker, and trainer. She's featured on Radio 4 Woman's Hour, The Daily Mall, The C5s, The Vanessa Show.
Nice.
And she's the creator of the UK's first divorce fairs.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
Suzy has also been a TEDx speaker and works internationally helping divorced families evolve from broken families, right?
Nice. Good stuff.
And then helping them also evolve into extended families by showing them how to avoid costly court battles and use peace as their weapon of choice. So thank you for joining the show
Thank you,
today,
Suzy.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Suzy.
Welcome to the Lame Show.
Thank you, Suzy.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome.
Showing you much love from across the pond.
Across the pond.
I can feel it.
So how's the Suzy, how's the lockdown been over there?
It's I think the hardest part for people, and sorry to draw a parallel with divorce so quickly, is it's the confusion and not knowing when it will end and not trusting the system and realizing that no one seems to know what they're doing. A bit like dealing with the family law system sometimes. So it's very stressful. I think the big thing for people will be over the next year will be a lot of mental health stress issues, and of course that's going to hit families even harder.
Also causing more divorces, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always there's a lot of press thing about like every January, that's divorce month and that kind of stuff. But I think it's pretty regular, the amount of people that get divorced. It might just happen in glitches here and sort of blocks here and there. But I do think the added stress could make the divorces a lot harder to keep it peaceful, shall we say? Because
Right.
the more stressed people are, more angry, the more upset, the more stuck somewhere where you don't want to be with somebody, and you got the kids screaming. It's not going to help make things peaceful.
Do you think it's possible for a couple to successfully parent their children when they're on the verge of divorce or ready for divorce and still take care of their children?
I was once told by a parenting expert that when you're going through family breakup, whether you're legally married or not, because there's plenty of both, shall we say,
Right.
the pressures are the same, and the issue is that you actually can't parent. You can't function well as a human being, never mind parent, and then to try and co-parent with someone who you associate with perhaps fear and a lot of stress. So for me, it was a time in my life where I realized I couldn't just do everything on my own. And I think the key is, and that's what's great about like shows like yours, is encouraging people to get information, to not just sit there and try and make it all work on their own, because it's actually impossible. It's too much for any one person alone. And you have to find a support network and people and systems and organizations who can help you.
Okay.
Yeah, no. So Suzy, my situation, my wife and I were married about 17 years before we got divorced. We have, two grown children now. One's 21, one's 15, about to be 16. And I feel we've done a really good job of co-parenting, right? We've opened up the lines of communication. We're constantly having each other's back if there's any kind of discrepancies about the kids. I really am interested in, like you said, learning more and continuing to have a great co-parenting relationship. Is there any advice you would give someone like me who's got, older children? I've been divorced now for several years, and I'm just trying to, keep our co-parenting situation progressing in a positive direction.
Good question.
I will definitely answer that question, but I would really encourage you to continue doing what you're doing, which is sharing that story, because what you lack when you're in the middle of it. Let me just preface what I'm saying. When I said you can't do the job well, that's when you're right in the thick of it, and that's where you need the support. But going forwards, but even to get through that, you need to have good role models. And when we look at famous people, they're not usually great role models for co-parenting. More role models like yourself and the rest of the gang there, just going, yeah, it's tough, it's hard, but whatever their journey, this is what you can make it work. And I think it's such an important message. A lot of people just think that's how it's going to be forever because she's a nightmare, he's a narcissist, and all the usual stuff, and they think that's it, and they kind of give up inside themselves. So I think the key thing is to find inspiration and good mentors and believe that no matter how much of a nightmare your co-parent might be right then, that actually you can make it work. So in my own experience, I thought I would never trust him again, and all the usual stuff that you have when you're very hurt in a breakup. But he's earned my respect, my children's dad, over the years in a way that if you'd have told me that 10, 15 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it. So it's a lot of I'm sure you would agree with me with this. It's holding that space, that possibility for the other parent to be their better self, even when they're not actually responding like that at the time. And to do that takes a lot of I think quite a bit of personal work. You need to be really strong and solid in yourself, but you also need to have very, very clear boundaries. And that, answering your question now fully, is when you're going forwards and maintain that relationship, is putting in structures that keep polite, healthy boundaries. And there are some great online tools that actually help people to do that, which I'm sure you've probably come across, maybe even use some of them.
The one question I wanted to ask you, when a marriage happens, I think women take on the approach of we faster than men. Like we are a unit, we do this together. When divorce happens, there's a separation, and I think there's a separation of thought, because that mom thinks a lot of times, these are my children, I gave birth to these children, and I have the final say on everything. Now, from a father's perspective, who is trying to be more of a team now that the marriage is over, how would you what are some tips you can give to a father who is trying to gain that mother's trust? Because I don't want to say woman, because mothers are different. Mothers are ready to fight the devil, God at the same time for their children.
Right.
And the daddy at the same time. So what tips can you give?
Well, some tips I was giving to a dad actually this week in the same situation was there's some great resources. Have you come across Our Family Wizard, the online diary, which is I believe Brad Pitt's using that as well with Angelina Jolie, but it's better than trying to use Google Share Calendar, because when things are difficult, the communication, just imagine when you've got your to-be or ex-wife, because you've done the divorce, but the co-parenting still goes on, and you're thinking, oh, wouldn't it be lovely if I never had to get that sinking feeling when I get a text or an email or a Facebook message, because you can go, just do it in the app, do it in you send them a link, get them to sign up, and then all the organisation about kids' holidays, who's with who, you channel it through this specially designed platform. That has other cool things it does as well, but even just on that basis, so it creates a safer space and reduces the risk. It even has a tonometer on it, which it tells you if it thinks that the way you've worded something might be a little bit edgy, and you might want to think
a tone monitor.
So clever. And there's lovely guy, they've been around for years, our family wizard, and it's like one of the parenting resources I put in my free app for people and encourage them. But straight away, it helps you start to put in some boundaries of the way you communicate. Get clear on what you do agree on, which, school holidays or whatever. It also means you don't miss out on things like parents' evenings because it's in there. And it also is really, really good if the other person is messing you about or making false claims. So sometimes I'll be talking with a dad and I'll say, I don't want to be depressive, but because of her behaviour so far, you may find you suddenly start getting claims of, oh, he doesn't really want to see the children, he's made no effort. And it's he says, she says. But if you've got a diary that shows clearly that you've wanted to do all these things, and she's the one who hasn't gone in and authorised it or said anything, a court can look at that and go, it's pretty obvious what's going on here. Right. So it's also quite a good way when you do have a difficult person to kind of make sure that they can't get away with some bad behaviour right up front, rather than waiting for it to happen. And there's another really good one, which is he's an American guy who I met online recently. He was recommended to me. He had a horrific divorce with his daughter, a very difficult ex-wife, and real challenges in seeing his daughter. So he's now, which he managed to resolve by being very patient and determined and putting in boundaries. But what he did was he created some software called Split Smart, which I also linked to in my Best Way to Divorce app. And it's got, you can create your own parenting plan, your co-parenting plan, which is obviously very useful before you divorce, but also afterwards and then ongoing. So makes you think through all the things you agree on, and you can print it off, like, here we are, all the things we do agree on, because there must be something.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, that's
something. Awesome. And then there'll be all the things you perhaps don't agree on, which is how long you have them over Christmas and what day they come there, and all these little things which can cause a huge amount of misery, and of course the kids get stuck in the middle. So and then I always say, don't worry if you don't agree on everything, because you never will, but then you've kind of got this analytical list of areas that you've discussed on the software. You don't have to speak to each other, this is key, but you're still communicating, and then go and sit with a mediator. And
Suzy, what's the name of that platform again?
That's called Split Smart, and again, it's in the welcome pack in the Best Way to Divorce app, which is a free app on any phone that you've got.
Okay.
And desktop. So I always so often direct people there immediately and say, go and look, and they're cheap as chips, and there's a discount code and all of that stuff. But basically, if you put those use those tools well right from the beginning, it immediately starts to put you more in control of the situation. Because if you spend all your time trying to be nice and do the right things, and this works for the mums as well as the dads, because there's always someone in the relationship who perhaps is a bit more has more control, shall we say, then you're in danger of just having no boundaries, and then actually you've got only yourself to blame when they start behaving really badly, because basically you let them for possibly for years, and it's a lesson that we all have to learn. It's like, oh, actually I need to start standing up for myself here. You've got to do it in kind of clever ways that are reasonable and helpful, but very clear. So if you've got a co-parent who's being difficult, and people go, well, what if he doesn't, or she or he doesn't use it? I go, well, then they're not going to be able to talk about the kids, are they?
Hi, Suzy. This is Drew.
Hello, Drew.
I have a quick question for you. So I was married for 15 years, got divorced, but my ex and I, we have a great co-parenting relationship.
Excellent.
But I have friends who are not blessed to have a good co-parenting relationship with their ex, and they want to change that and make it a better situation. What do you say to the guy or girl or lady who would like a better relationship with their ex, but it's not happening for them right now? How do they change that to go from a bad relationship to a good co-parenting relationship?
Well, obviously, even with the best tools in the world, that's not going to do it on its own. So the most important thing, like everything in life, is focusing on what you want to achieve. And don't worry if you start laughing because it seems completely impossible and ridiculous. And a lot of the work I do with clients is helping them to look forwards and imagine what to them is a good co-parenting relationship. And it might be simply that they can do the changeover without a bitchy comment or just feeling sick. So they have to actually visualize what they want. Because let's face it, happy families, come around for Christmas and come in for a drink, is in many cases not realistic. So the first thing is to work out, what does that mean to you to have a good co-parenting relationship? Because it's going to be completely different from family to family. But unless you get clarity on that, you don't know what you're aiming for. So that's the first thing that needs to be done. And don't just try and copy other people and look at inspirational people like you guys and think, oh, that, I'm failing because I haven't done that. My message to any parents who might be thinking that is, every co-parenting relationship is like every relationship. There is no set formula that says this is good, this is bad. It's good if you can get on with your life and you don't feel like you're carrying a load on your back. You feel it's not messing up your life. And the other reason, and of course the most important one, is that your kids, all they want is for you to be happy and respectful to each other, really. And so that, the basic line for a good co-parenting relationship isn't that high, actually, but it can seem impossible when you're in a very difficult situation, because you get caught up in all the years of practice of being angry with each other, and you have to find ways to break that. So my second advice to people would be, work with a really good coach who knows about triggering, and they might be not necessarily a therapist. You want someone who's helping you, looking forward, and understands how you're triggered and how you can learn to see that and stop that, because you've got to change your own behavior, and then miraculously you'll find that the other person doesn't have that effect on you anymore, and things start to
Suzy,
be better. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, this is Daniil. How you doing?
Hi, Daniil.
Hi, how are you? I have a question for a friend. I'm asking for a friend. So what if a friend has a pretty decent co-parenting situation, but there is distance between where he is and where his child is at, right? So in the course of the relationship, one parent is for gaming and playing video games, and other parents are kind of against it. So my friend feels like, his child should be able to play video games, because in the games you can actually be on the microphone and interact with him, so you're both kind of playing the game at the same time. But the other parent might feel like gaming is a distraction and it causes a source of conflict. And you want to be supportive, but at the same time you understand it's a way for you to interact with your child. Like, what are your thoughts on that? That make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I used to be very anti. My kids didn't get telly for years. I put it in the garage and told them it was and then computers came along.
Suzy got told, "I hate you," a whole bunch, didn't you?
You don't get me, Mom.
But having said that, now I see it very differently. One of the first things I tell someone who's stressing about the co-parenting is, there's a harsh fact of life, but actually it works out to be a good thing, and that is that what happens in Mummy's house is different to what happens in Daddy's house. Different rules. And the kids can learn that very quickly. And my God, will they use them against because they're really into that. So, and that's where the communication's important, because even if it's through an app on your phone, and that's the only communication you have, to go, this is the bedtimes that we have. And they're in the diary. So when they're saying, well, Daddy lets me stay up till this, they've only got to pop in there and go, no, he doesn't. I can see in the diary what your routine is. And so it's but it is about accepting that it's different. And I think children are so resilient, and what they need is consistency. So what they do not need is judgment from one parent against another.
That's a good point, Suzy, how kids are so resilient and persistent.
As long as you keep it the same, you don't change around, and they get used to, this is how it is here, this is how it is there. Now, if your child is coming back from the other parent, and I did have a friend this happened to, the father would let the children watch films that really were above the age range they should be watching them. And of course, the little boy seemed fine, and there he is with his dad watching it. But he'd come home, and for the next 3 nights, when he's back with his mum, he'd be having nightmares and waking up.
Wow.
And it was very difficult, because I think he thought she was just making it up or being difficult, because he didn't see that, because he only had them for the weekend. It was just really complicated. So it can be tricky. So you just have to start with the child, because each child will be different.
Right.
So some child doing the gaming and stuff could be great, another could be driving the mum mad, say if it was that way around, because they wanted to be on it and they felt angry. And that's where parental communication is so important, because whatever your relationship with the co-parent, and this is again, if you've laid this out in your split smart parenting plan, for example, you've had these discussions, you've agreed to disagree on certain things, but you need to help support the other parent. Say, like, even though I disagree with this here, I'm happy for you. That's what your dad, you do that with your dad, and it's fine there, but you're not doing it here. And then if there's an argument, to get the other parent to go, yeah, to just be sort of, this is what we have agreed as parents. It doesn't matter that you're doing different things, but you're both on board with that.
So Suzy, what about if you know, kids want to see mom and dad back together, right? I mean, how does that work? How does that mix the co-parenting relationship?
Good question.
You know, like
excellent question.
kids always want to see their mom and dad. Well, I shouldn't say, a lot of kids might want to see their mom and dad together. They see the co-parenting is working well. There may be a situation where there's some arguing and fighting, and you know there was some disconnect. But now mom and dad are on it, right? They have each other's back. They're working together. You know, they're exchanging. They're talking. Things are great. Mom and dad, you guys should get back together.
Too late.
Too late.
Well, I think they can go through a phase of that, but again, what they want is their parents to be happy. So if they can see both of you happy in your own lives separate, even if you haven't got new partners, then they will accept that. But they will have a strong urge. So they might suggest you the other parent comes, and I've had this, you know, why doesn't dad come on holiday with us, or things like that. And
what do you do with that?
And I've explained, and you know, and I thought about it, and I went through it. I'm thinking, no way. And then I thought, well, actually, you know, he could. I don't want him staying in the same building.
Why not? To get his own place, Suzy, he can come, huh?
Tell the truth. It's like, I don't want your ass anywhere near me.
We can hang out with him sometimes in the day, and we can have dinner together in the restaurant. I could do that. That's okay. Yeah. So you've got to fight. You've got to be, and just be honest with them. You know, it's not that you don't like the other person anymore, you're not friends with them, it's just they're not the person you choose to hang out with. I think it's very difficult. Where the problem comes is where one of the couple does still want to be with the other parent, and the children will pick up on that. And
I do have a question about terminology. Over here, when a married couple, they separate, they're no longer husband and wife. So the mother might say my baby father, dad might say my baby mother, my baby mama. In London, do they say my baby mum?
But I think that we should take on your. I love that. I think it's really nice.
Oh, we about to put that on a t-shirt. Send it out to you, Suzy.
It's official.
Like, hey, I'm no longer married. I got a baby mum.
Works for the UK.
And I think it works for you. And because we are, as I say, there are no broken families. There are only extended families.
Nice.
Like
learning to manage that extended family is quite a skill. You know, it's not easy. And when you have a new person coming in, so you know, the hardest job of all is the new step parent.
Right. That's the next question I was going to ask you. So you said that's an extended family. Now that man or that woman considers that ex family, but when a new person comes in and they have their own set of standards and new rules, how do you navigate that? Because that person, especially if they get remarried.
So you're talking about taking everybody to the theme park.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to a mom or dad?
Stepmom.
Everybody playing in the pool together.
That says we are an extended family, but when they remarry and that new spouse doesn't want that ex part of the family anymore. How do you handle that?
I don't want to see my ex's new man in his Speedo.
So it's not extended family for you.
Not be bigger than
you. I don't think so.
But Suzy, before you answer that question, how soon after your divorce or when you're dating do you introduce your children to your new person that you're dating? Before we even get to the step parenting.
Particularly women will do this. They'll go when they're sort of making an agreement when you split, and informally saying, you know, well, if you meet anyone else, you know, they usually have this 3-month rule. And I always go,
I think I had that conversation.
I think we all had that conversation.
It didn't work out though.
I'm not sure how.
Right out the window.
I think the intent was good.
I always go, he won't do it though, will he? He'll meet someone and go, oh, they're a new love of my life.
Slow down.
And so I never
brakes,
let
pump your
them,
brakes.
that's what he's going to do, isn't it? And they're like, yes. So don't set yourself up for a fight right from the beginning, except that's going to, so look at how is that going to happen. So my example might sound extreme, but it worked really well for me. So when I was lucky that my father's the person he married was probably about 3 years on, which had given me some healing time, which was good. So if it had been straight away, I think I would have found this difficult. But by the time she came on the scene, we were having big issues with our co-parenting. He wasn't in a good place. I was having to put in very big boundaries, and it was really, to be blunt, a bit shit. So when she turned up, I'm like, oh, thank God, there's someone to look after the children properly when they go and see him. So there's 3 of them. So it's a lot to take on. He wasn't in a good place at that time. And so I totally saw the benefits. She was gobsmacked because her parents had had a horrific divorce, and she couldn't understand why I was so nice to her. And I'm like, welcome. At one point, they lived in the same street for 6 months. They rented a house, so the kids could run backwards and forwards, and I didn't have to pack a bag for them. They could just come and get things. So I just saw this, for me, was really useful. And she was also, still is. They're not together anymore, but she's still part of our extended family. So you're not allowed to leave. It's like the Hotel California.
Right.
So once you're part of the family, you're part of the family. And so my daughter still keeps in contact with her. We WhatsApp sometimes because she's a lovely lady. And so I genuinely do believe that you are all one family, as we all are really in the whole world. But we play that out in our family lives. And if she was dangerous, unkind, obviously it would be a different matter. But you just look at that person and you go, are my kids safe with them? And then you do everything you can to be welcoming and helpful. And that doesn't mean you go around and have dinner with each other. But we did, one Christmas, she said, can we have the kids for Christmas morning? Because she wanted that whole presents thing, and she didn't have to have her own. And I thought, I don't know, I've always kept them for Christmas morning. And I was quite not too keen on it. And then I thought about it. And so we came up with a solution. So I went round there Christmas Eve with the kids, and we all stayed over. And the best part is that after we'd had dinner, I went out with all my friends, had a lovely time out, free of the children for the whole evening while they babysat.
Right.
Went back, fell asleep on their sofa, woke up in the morning, and we all shared that lovely thing with the kids with the Christmas presents in the morning.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's
And
gangster.
it was so
awesome.
cool. Yeah,
Suzy, that means you have friends. A lot of women don't have
it
friends.
can feel weird. At first, I remember thinking, is this weird? Is this weird? And you've got to remember that other people, the way they react, that's your biggest problem. The more, I don't know if you found this, the more successfully you co-parent, in that you're happy, the kids are happy, that is success. I find that other people do, some people struggle with it. They say it's weird, they don't understand it, and they actually feel frightened about it because they go, well, I couldn't do that. And they feel threatened by it. And I don't know if you've had that, but I've definitely had a lot of that. And you just have to kind of get over that and know that some people do find it challenging because of their own life experiences. But hey, it's your life and your family, so it really doesn't matter about them.
That's awesome. So,
Agreed.
Suzy, as we get to wind the show down here, can you just give us and the listeners just some last parting words here? Some words of wisdom, words of advice from across the pond?
Just whether you're UK, USA, wherever you are, your children are the most amazing thing you've ever created. And when you find yourself bitching about the other parent, never ever do that anywhere near your children, and they can hear a long way because you harm them deeply. Just a fact. But more importantly, think about, stop yourself for a minute and go, I chose that person to have my children with. I made it.
Right.
There was probably something in there, something good and lovely and beautiful in them that I was reacted to. Why don't I remember that and think about that little part? Now, that doesn't mean I want to live with them and be with them anymore, but just remember the beautiful part of their soul, because it's there. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had children with them.
Exactly.
And every time you look at those children, you have to think that they are half that other person.
Good
So
point.
you have to love the other person as well, because otherwise you're denying half of your own children.
That's tough to
Right.
remember.
Well, thank you very much, Suzy. We really appreciate you joining us on The Lame Show.
The Lame Show.
I just have one of the questions for Suzy. If people want to get in contact with you and ask you questions, how can they contact you?
They pop into the Best Way to Divorce, easy to remember. I'll put that in the App Store. Download it for free, and there's a free chat group, and they can leave a message in there for me, and as well as lots of parenting stuff I can then point them at, so they don't have
Awesome.
to.
That is awesome.
Cool.
Well, thanks for listening to The Lame Show. Check out past episodes on your favorite podcast platform. Smash that download button,
Smash it.
hit the subscribe,
Hit it.
and leave us a comment. Also, you can interact with us on all social media platforms. And if you want to buy us a drink to support the show, head over to buymeacoffee.com/The Lame Show. We're now accepting sponsorship for as little as $5 a drink or $10 a month. Thanks
Awesome.
again.
Thanks for joining the Lame Show.
Thanks.
Lame
Thank
show.
you.
Lame show.